let's talk about digital ethics, but let's talk about the strategic importance of it. Ethics can be an enabler, and if we get these things right, it can really help us for our transformation. No. So, okay, the video is not working. No problem. So I used to be a frequent traveler. I thought, I'm a global citizen, and this was I have satellite homes everywhere across the globe. And yes, of course, this airplane, it helped me to realize this kind of lifestyle. And I've really been a lot of times in the airplane, as a lot of you maybe too. And 2016, I was just sitting there. I had just had my first daughter, and I had a panic attack in the airplane. Well, I was sweating, and I was like, oh my God, I will die. I was flying to Boston, and you can laugh about it now, but I really felt it. And I don't know panic attacks, so this was for me really, I was in this plane, and then I was thinking, and I was like, okay, no, I just read something. The risk of dying by entering a plane is nearly zero. There is just no risk. But I was thinking like, okay, this thing is flying in the air, it's not possible, and I was in this circle. So before that, I had never really somehow rationally questioned this transforming technology. What kind of technologies come together in an airplane? I had never really thought about it. It is convenient in our life. It is just there, and it helps us. It helps us a lot. So, what is happening in general? If we have a new technology that has the power or ability to transform the way how we live, we tend to have a polarized opinion on that. So you have those who say, okay, the group that overestimates the potential of this technology, and on the other hand, those who say, okay, humanity is over, so we are about to get overruled. These are the two polarized tendencies that you can find, but the thing is, if we all agree here, AI is one of those technologies, and it is here to stay. It's already clear it is here to stay. So what does that mean for organizations? So how are we going to handle this thing? So there's not really this option of not, being in this polarized mode. So AI for good in a definition that you can see here for organizations, if we are optimizing the positive impact, it could mean that we have an impact on growth. We have efficiency gains, value creation, competitive advantage. You will here find just very core economic optimization things that companies have to take care of to be sustainable. So if we get it right, we have the potential to have all these gains and be better than others. And the dystopian scenario that is possible for organizations, because they are there, people are going to work there every day, is, okay, let's use AI for not bad, meaning we might not be the pioneers, we might not move forward as much, we don't believe in it, but let's take care, we have no harmful use, let's make a responsible transformation, let's mitigate the risk, and let's take care of protection of data. So I would just want us being from, okay, it could be polarized. Organizations don't really have the option. We can speak about polarized opinions. They cannot really build strategies on polarized opinions, so they kind of have to find a middle way. But if we look again, and I'm stressing this again, if we look into society, if we look into the media, we still find two scenarios that are kind of extreme. For Europe, we have on the one hand the Wild West. It's mostly examples from the US where we say, okay, they do whatever they can technologically do. They just do it. And these are, if you have been on the main stage, these are technology companies driving this innovation, and they just do whatever they can. And then you have this FOMO group. Yeah? Okay, Europe is dead. We don't have any chance to become to raise up again. And we, in Germany, and it's often even stricter than in whole Europe, but we have this situation that we think we cannot keep up. So what it is that companies, organizations have to, it's not negotiable, they have to build up strategies that find a balance between innovation and control. Now you look at me and be like, okay, this is it. This is kind of trivial. Innovation and control, of course, they need to balance it. Yes, it is. It is as trivial as it is, but how you're going to do this and what it really means is not as easy. Believe me, that's what I can talk about and work with people every day. So what is new, and we won't find these numbers for other transformative technologies, is that 79% of decision makers in companies already using AI, Gen AI, stated that they have ethical concerns when they implement or work with AI. And in the next question was, okay, so are you prepared for this? And only 1 in 5 companies have an ethical framework in place to manage these concerns. They answered this, and now you have to ask yourself, okay, or we asked, what are ethical concerns? I mean, you said you have them, but what actually do you think are ethical concerns? And again, here, you can see hallucination, bias, data privacy. If you look at the numbers of what are the most cited ethical concerns, it's actually those. This is what you can find. But we have gone a bit further and asked an international global company, all those who are actually experimenting with that, what do you think are ethical concerns? And you see, there is a lot more under the iceberg. And if we now take a closer look, for example, at those that are discussed majorly on the top, like hallucinations. What is hallucinations? I have talks, I don't see my colleague David here. We have a lot of talks that hallucinations can be technologically solved very soon. It has to do with quality. It's actually what we say trustworthy AI is how technology can solve and help us in order to cope with these kind of risks or these kind of barriers that people name. Let's go to data privacy. Same thing. Data privacy, you see on top, and there are a lot more that we couldn't show in the graph. Data privacy and intellectual property, depending on in which kind of industry you are, there are a lot of more regulatory impacts where you say, okay, this is a legal question. It's not an ethical question. So we know somehow, it's difficult, but we know how to deal with it. So the rest, what stays there, is wild and unstructured and heterogeneous. It is the impact on the workforce. They have fear of job displacement. People have fear of inequalities. On the other hand, racism, surveillance, but also loss of machine control, the human-machine interaction. A lot of people, we had done even more qualitative analysis here, and we saw that people really, when technology comes into their decision-making, they are afraid. So I said just 1 of 5 companies has an ethical framework to deal with the issues that are coming up. And if you look at them, you see for the ethics, there is just how you're going to tackle those aspects that define, in the end, the acceptance, the adoption, and the success of using AI in a corporate context. It's not trivial. Even we know we need to balance innovation and control. So the question is ethics. What's the standard? Do we have a standard for that? Because when we have a standard, we can kind of use this and help organizations to operationalize it. And if you look at these principles or values, this is the discussion. Ethics is in academia, in society, in politics, the EU AI Act, it was a discussion, first place, about values and principles. And these are those that could be found in most of we have done a study in all those guidelines of digital and AI ethics. These are the values you can find. If you take a closer look in Europe, 93% transparency, what does that mean? Of all guidelines, 93 of them actually had transparency in them. So you can see transparency, very important, beneficency, explainability, autonomy, responsibility, security. For those of you who have been in contact also with the EU AI Act, they have been pillars also for this regulation. So these are values that actually are very important for us in Europe, and we could see this from the guidelines. So we are not alone in Europe, and this was something, Fabian is not listening to this now, but we had discussions about that. We are not alone here in Europe. So let's take a look. We have done the study too for a client, and we have done a very intensive study for 2 other regions in the world. What might that be? And looked at also at the most prominent values. So again, transparency on number 1, accountability, security. You can read through this a bit. Is this really striking? Is what's really happening there? So does it help if we say, okay, this is US, this is Asia? It seems kind of homogeneous, right? So also these values, and this is science. I mean, this is studies that told us, okay, they have the same values. So let's take a closer look. Transparency, obviously the most important value and principle worldwide. Further, explainability in Europe. See, explainability only in Europe. US, they come later, you know, it's not a top 6 values. You will find explainability in the US too, but it is not very important. So explainability, if you look at the discussions that are done on explainability, we use a lot of energy on explainability in science, again in academia. And then what we tend to forget, ethics is about not optimizing for one value, but having a balance. So if you make something totally explainable, what happens to your value of literacy, for example? How you want to educate all those people on explaining them, how this explainability, what that actually means for them. So also the values, they have to be in balance. But just a remark, Europe seems to like explainability. And then another thing, striking, fairness. And it helps us for one thing, fairness only in East Asia, predominantly China. So a social scoring system in the Chinese society might be absolutely fair. Fairness is a value, very important. It indicates us a bit that, okay, Sarah, can we talk about what fairness means? Can we not talk about what transparency means? It indicates us that these are values and principles, and we might need to go deeper. Just one more example, beneficence. I pointed this out because it's a very old bioethical value. Beneficence, doing good, and in doing good is something that still, whatever it means, has been present everywhere. And we will take a closer look what companies now face the challenge they face when they say, okay, we have guidelines, because this is the only way to somehow nearly come into the direction of managing ethics and taking care that we behave like these values, but we can obviously not work just with the words. So this is it's now just a short example. Beneficence, there's a definition. Again, we extracted all the definitions. What does it mean? Beneficence in all those guidelines that we found, and I wish we had Gen AI. When we did the study, we didn't, so it was a manually scientific work. So beneficence has a definition, what it is, in this sense it is. Then, when it enters a corporate setup, there's something needed, commitment. You need to commit a value that you want to work with this value and want to ensure this value. And this is practically just, you say you promote this, yeah? So this is an easy step. You say this is important for us. And now, and this is very important, measures and metrics. In order to come to a framework and actively work with those to address the fears, we need measures and metrics. And we need to measure what we do. We need to establish processes supported by relevant KPIs and metrics. We need to hold people responsible for that. And we need to enable action and enable decision making so that someone who is, and you had this picture of managing the managers, those who actually do the work, right? They don't see the beneficence on the corporate website. We promote beneficence. in order to tackle the issues that we had underneath the iceberg, we need to make sure that those who do the work know how beneficence will help them in terms of tools, in terms of questions we ask, to ensure that we have beneficence in every product, to have beneficence in every process, and in every action that we do. And it shows us again, and this was just a contribute again to Fabian, that the values, they are very sensitive to the context, of course, and they mean something in a certain setup. And I think we in Europe here, we have a strong value focus, but still organizations need to figure it out for themselves. So again, I'm coming back to innovation and control. How can we have actually this balance? Because actually this is what is happening out there is more, it goes more to what we saw in the beginning than to that. And when we are talking to decision makers in companies right now, we see that there's a clear focus on control. And we have seen setups where actually people totally, like they have gone with some exploration, they have done some stuff, and then there's this decision of, okay, now how to scale, how to implement, how to get it right, how to strategize, and then there's this break scenario. So what happens is control takes over, and we have all those functions within companies that take over, and then they have their frameworks for trustworthy AI, not that much, but we have the CISO set up, cybersecurity, security protection, we have compliance, we have legal, and they all are asked, okay, please give us a framework. We don't have a framework for everything else, but give us a framework. So actually the barrier, that is what we observe, is tending to get very, very high for innovation. But at the same time, we cannot lose speed. So this is actually a situation that we see within companies. So it's there's actually the need to act now and change something in the way that we manage our AI transformation. So what do we want you to take with you and spread the words and talk about it with all of your colleagues and everyone who think can have an impact on that? Ethics can be delegated. I know people don't. I don't like the word ethics, by the way. Ethics helps me not to do my work, help companies for a safe transformation. But in the end, ethics cannot be delegated. If you put it on the side, if you don't take care, it will be a barrier and it will not help to transform successfully. So leaders and people in charge can delegate it, and we cannot stop educating on that. Then, if you have realized that give ethics a seat on the table, that is just a picture, but it means give them resources and money, because otherwise you have done nothing and nothing will work. So we really need to mean it, and there are a lot of examples where pioneering companies have done that, and they are further in their AI transformation than others that haven't done that. So it's an invest actually in getting the transformation on. And again, create an ethical tech mindset to make ethics an enabler. Again, I have to cite you, managers. We have to, when we look at the organizations, we have to fill this gap of people who are held accountable in legal terms, but also in strategic terms of having a long-term development, getting this transformation that AI is opposed to business models going on and holding accountable for that. And those who actually bring the value and are those who are working on that every day. So we have to bridge that, and you have to realize for that something has gonna change in the culture, and again, we have to value that. Thank you very much.